Hey guys, Bugcat7 here. Okay, it is Tuesday, February 26, 2019, and I want to thank you for visiting the Stonewall Research channel here on YouTube. I really appreciate it. Thank you for watching my videos. I'm very grateful for that. And if you would kindly hit the like button, that would be great too. Okay, guys, well, I have a very interesting video for you today about the Lovelock Cave. And, I have to also reckon all this stuff to my own research. So, and if you've been following along on my channel, anything the mainstream does, I just, I do my best to tear it all apart. And, again, this one's it's an article. I don't go to the webpage. There's just so many advertisements. It just ties up all the resources on my computer. They do it intentionally. They want you to subscribe to get rid of all the ads, and I'm not doing that. I got 30 of these online. They can't. So whatever. So in any case, let's go through this article, okay? You Homo sapien mother effers. You, hey, wait a second. Don't call me that. What, mother effer? No, Homo sapien. I'm not a Homo sapien. No, you're not. Okay, so let's read this article. I think the author here, he's from, he's an online magazine, and, he's just doing this probably in 2015. It's an article from 2015. And, the university probably released, their press department or whatever, released this information. They were examining some artifacts from there, whatever. And then, journalists pick up on that. They read the article. So these things are peer reviewed. They have to release these things. So, so in any case, let's go through it here, because in some ways, this whole thing is very allegorical to what happened to the people at the Galena Canyon in so many ways. So, and there's other things about it that I have to comment on, and I don't care who's saying what and whatnot. I got to add my 2 cents, and I know a lot about this. We know a lot about this from watching my videos. So, the evidence I give in any of my videos for anything all comes from mainstream stuff. See, this is how they get upset at facts and figures and numbers that come from mainstream. It's like, I'm the one who's the author of all these things. I'm not. I'm reporting it as it is. Okay, what they report. Okay, and that's it. So let me read this to you here, and we'll go over some of these things if I can relate some of these things to my research. Okay, Lovelock Cave, a tale of giants or a giant tale of fiction? Okay, well, already, no, don't use giants. Large hominids, large humanoids, people of a different phenotype, larger in size, and look, just let's keep it at that. All right. The Paiute, a Native American tribe indigenous to parts of Nevada, have an oral tradition that they told to early white settlers of the area about a race of red-haired white giants, or quote-unquote barbarians, that their ancestors referred to as the Sitka. The story was written down in 1882 by Sarah Winnemucca Hopkins, daughter of a Paiute Indian chief, in her book Life Among the Paiutes, Their Wrongs and Claims. These quote-unquote giants were described as being vicious, unfriendly, and cannibalistic. All right, so already I have a problem with this, because not qualifying. You don't know about my research. King Mangatuxi, who I mentioned lots and lots of times in my videos and doing the research and whatnot, from the Montaukett tribe here on Long Island, where I'm at, okay, was a chief of gigantic form, as reported by Schoolcraft and the information he collected, and by Rutenberg in his book, which is in the Library of Congress. King Mangatuxi, and I've read it in so many other books and Native American accounts, all this stuff, okay? He was of gigantic form, and, he was fearful kind of guy, but, he took care of his people, and the tribes around New England were scared shit of him. And he built canals, okay? He was smart enough to engineer canals, and he was of giant form. And here I show John Jensen, who just happens to talk about canals and artificial harbors that are like 7,000 years old. Okay, so enough of that. King Mangatuxi, a man of tremendous form. A good guy, not vicious, unfriendly, and cannibalistic. Okay, like the ones over there in the West. All right? Our guys were good guys, as my research shows. All right? This is my claim, and, all right? All right, in this story, the Paiute speak of the great battle that took place, which led to their extermination at a site known today as Lovelock Cave. During the early part of the 20th century, archaeologists found thousands of artifacts inside this cave, leading to a lengthy excavation of the site and leading to some speculation of the Paiute legend, that the Paiute legend was real. Let me show you some pictures here. Go back to the beginning here. This is the interior of Lovelock Cave. Some area looks like a sitting area. Some primitive construction looks circular. This is, after them excavating under, 20, 30 feet, of back guano. And here is the Sarah, get her name right, Sarah Winnemucca, the Paiute writer and lecturer, alongside her father and Chief Puato Winnemucca of the Paiute natives in Nevada circa 1882. Very interesting looking people, and again, like the native lady from that ayahuasca article that I read to you from, I forget which video now, but about the different languages, the Indian languages being orphan languages related to the Basque in Spain. The Iroquois language happens to be very similar to the Basque in Spain. And this lady believes that, there is no, Bering Strait crossing. That came later, and the people were already here. And Saram was sort of hinting at in his book that they keep on digging up skeletons and go further and further and further and further back. And, it's just, there's no reason to believe that they won't find another one that's even older. And that native lady believes that, she's an original person. She grew up out of this earth, that people that came across the Bering Strait came later and introduced their DNA later. And, you understand? So that's what some original people think now. All right? You do what you want with it, but, that's what she believed. Sitika or Saiduka literally translates as tool eaters, quote unquote. Tool eaters, you get that? In the Northern Paiute language. The tool is a fibrous water plant, which according to legend, the giants wove into rafts to escape attacks by the Paiute. Now, I know it's just a nickname or whatever it is, but if there's such savage and ferocious giants and cannibals and all this kind of stuff, and obviously fierce warriors, why tool eaters? Why not man eaters or human eaters? Why tool eaters? Was it the tool? Is it tasty? Does it taste good? I don't know, but I mean, why not man eaters? You're making a story or whatever. I don't know. Very suspicious, Tool eaters doesn't sound too ferocious to me. Sound like a pussycat. All right, so in any case, they used the rafts to navigate across what remained then of Lake Lahontan, an ancient lake that once covered most of the northern Nevada in the last ice age, if you believe in that. Not going to go through it. I did a video on it. Look at it. As the Paiute tale goes, after years of warfare, all the tribes in the area joined together to rid themselves of the Sitika. Now, again, this is very allegorical to the people at Galena. And if you haven't seen that video, please do watch it. Okay, the Towers of Silence. All right? And Saran talks about Frank C. Hibbins' work and the extensive archaeology done at the site of Galena. So they know everything that happened to people in Galena, okay? It's very allegorical to it, and it's probably one of the best videos on my channel, in my opinion, that I did on this work, about this unknown archaeological site, and then how they're sort of burying it. And these people, and I read in this video from Saran's book on Hibbins' work, right? See if I can even get to it here. Maybe you can hear a little bit of it. Here's the interesting part. And bodies found in some of the towers differ sharply from the remains of Pueblo Indians, who all the objects and weapons found with them, as well as the physical characteristics of the skeletons, Okay, so they weren't like the Pueblo peoples who lived in the area or any of the other indigenous peoples of the areas. Okay, they had weird skeletal structure. All right? And it's no different. Okay, at Lovelock Cave. No different. Okay, but they don't mention it in either this article, the Wikipedia article, various articles. They don't mention that, but at the site where the museum where the artifacts are kept, they do mention that. So we're going to look at that later. All right. All right, so as the Paiute tale goes, at the usual of all the tribes in the area joined together to rid themselves of the Sitka. One day, as the tribe chased down the last remaining red-haired giants, they took refuge in a cave. The Paiute demanded their enemy come out of the cave and fight, but the giants refused. The coalition of tribes proceeded to shoot arrows at them while starting a large fire at the mouth of the cave. The smoke drove out a few who died in a hail of arrows, while the rest were either burned alive or asphyxiated. Over time, the entrance to the cave would collapse, leaving it accessible only to bats and cut off from human contact. Okay, so they found human remains in there. I don't know, this article is very vague about what human remains they found in there, but they found plenty of mummified remains at Galena. Okay, and the same thing with these people's houses, the roofs were set on fire while those people were inside it, okay? Then they were attacked and killed, or either dragged or forced out of the house by the fire or whatever it is. 500 of these towers in Galena Canyon, all right? And all the people there had a different morphology, a different phenotype, a different skeletal structure that was slightly larger, bigger. Okay, which they say is just average and common, and whatever they say about it, they're wrong. I did the research on it, from height, the history of height. They're of unusual size. Period. End of story. That's that academic research that shows that on the history of height and height in general. You can't have it both ways, folks. They can't be common and average and not common and average when it comes to the research that's done on height. Can't have it both ways. Either they're of unusual size or they're not. Okay? It's not normal size. Okay? According to all the research and statistics done by mainstream, they're conflicting in their ideas there, is the point. Okay. Lovelock Cave, known also as Bat Cave, Horseshoe Cave, Sunset Guano Cave, and Indian Cave, is located 20 miles south of modern-day Lovelock, Nevada. Okay, so right there, you have purpose, misdirection. You know, there's 27 different names for it. You know, somebody's like, oh, you know where Lovelock Cave is? What, you mean Bat Cave, Horseshoe Cave, Sunset Guano Cave, and Indian Cave? Yeah, that's the one. Nope. Don't know where it is. You know, it's like, you know, this is, you know, how many names do you need here? And look, it's, whatever that might be, it seems very, very distracting. It's a very old cave that predates humans on the continent, and in prehistoric times was underneath Lake Lahontan. In 1886, which must have been before 4,000 years ago, because that's when the cave was occupied, In 1886, a mining engineer from Lovelock named John T. Reed was told of the legend by local Indians who took him to the site to prove it existed. Reed was told of the legend by locals doing the site to prove it. Reed was unsuccessful in getting an archaeological dig started immediately, but two miners, James Hart and David Pugh, realized the value of guano as an ingredient in gunpowder and created a company to start digging it out in 1911, which is a fact that I didn't know, a factoid in here that I didn't know. That guano is basically saltpeter, pure saltpeter, and that's why it's good. It was, the U.S. military up until World War I was using that guano in a lot of their explosives and stuff like that, believe it or not. And that's why in 1911 these guys, stepped on a gold mine here and they sold it all to the government for munitions, okay? Through a Hawaiian company. They stripped a layer of guano from the cave approximately 3 to 6 feet deep, using a pick and shovel with little regard to the artifacts, and shipped 250 tons of it to the Hawaiian Fertilizer Company in San Francisco. Okay, so little regard for the artifacts. So basically the site's been destroyed. Okay, so we're getting that, and every article mentions it. Here's the outside of the cave. All right. They had to clear that to get inside it, but there's the mouth of the cave. It's very unusual there. Rock formation. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. So Alfred Kroeber, founder of the University of California Anthropology Department, was contacted by Hart and Pugh when they reported finding prehistoric artifacts. This spurred the first archaeological dig of Lovelock in 1912, led by L.L. Loud, also of the University of California. Okay. A second dig took place in 1924, and after finishing the excavation, Loud collaborated on a report that was published in 1929. What L.L. Loud found was nothing short of amazing. Approximately 10,000 archaeological specimens were uncovered, including tools, bones, baskets, and weapons. According to the report, 60 average height mummies were unearthed, which is not mentioned in any other articles anywhere, but it's interesting this guy mentions it. But remember, the site was destroyed, and from what I gather from it is that these so-called mummies are an estimation of a bunch of bones that they can't make heads or tails of, okay? Duck decoys among the oldest known in the world, with feathers still attached, and a sandal over 15 inches long were excavated. A donut-shaped stone with 365 notches carved along the outside and 52 corresponding notches inside was found, which some scientists believe is a calendar. Interestingly, radiocarbon dating done on a follow-up visit found vegetable material dating back to 2030 BC, a human femur dating to 1450 BC, a human muscle tissue dating to 1420 BC, and basketry dating back to 1218 BC. So, the site is already very complicated because of occupation over thousands and thousands of years. So it's an extremely complicated site that basically these guano miners completely effed up. All right? And so it was going to be hard to begin with. It was a pristine site. All right? After the miners got through with it, it was just completely destroyed. And this guy that they mentioned, L.L. Loud, has serious criticisms against him and his techniques as far as archaeology goes. Which, it says in other articles, I think in a Wikipedia article there's a criticism of that guy. Okay, so archaeologists concluded from this that human occupation of Lovelock Cave by this culture started in 1500 BC. Today's anthropologists call the people who lived in the area the Lovelock culture. with a period lasting some 3,000 years. Many archaeologists believe that the Lovelock culture was replaced by the northern Paiutes. Okay, so it was replaced by the northern Paiutes. You know, they eliminated these people or whatever. So they just, all of them lived in the one cave there. I just kind of vague with this here, what they're reporting. And as far as human skeletal remains, they're not on display, which is kind of curious to me, because if these people were the Paiutes' enemies, because they weren't like them at all, okay, some of the reasoning behind it were giant, large size, large hominids, large humanoids, whatever they were. If they hated them so much or whatever, are they considered Native Americans' ancestors or not? I mean, are they the ancestors and they don't want to display them, or that they hated their guts and why shouldn't they display them? I don't quite understand the reasoning behind that, but you know, maybe it's the government doing the thinking for everybody. Okay, let's look at some duck decoys they found there. Okay, some duckies. Duckies that they found there, duck decoys. That's pretty high level of intellect there in creating these things, and you know, especially if they were defective. But I like this circa 400 BC to AD 100. It's like laughable. They are on display at the National Museum of the American Indian of the Smithsonian Institute. There is some debate as to the veracity of the claims made regarding the Lovelock giants. During the initial excavation, there were reports of mummified remains being found of two red-haired giants, one a female 6.5 feet tall, the other male over 8 feet tall. However, no such evidence remains. Where'd it go? Hey, can I see those skeletons? No. What happened to them? I don't know. My cousin Clem was watching them that night, and I told him to take out the garbage, and I don't know, something happened. I think he sold them at a garage sale for a couple of bucks. In Sarah Winnemucca Hopkins' book, Life Among the Paiutes, Their Wrongs and Claims, she does not mention giants, but does refer to quote-unquote barbarians, okay? Barbarians, which I've heard before. And the Pueblo Indians, I think, use that term to describe the giants, actually. So, it's, you know, here's where things get messed up, man. It's just, you don't know whose story is what. You know, what came before and what became after, the chicken or the egg. You know, one of these kind of things. Where did this story start circulating? Skeptics claim that chemical staining by earth after burial is a likely reason why mummified remains have red hair instead of black, like most Indians in the area. A study done at the University of Nevada indicates that the quote-unquote giants were about 6 feet tall and not up to 8 feet tall as had been claimed. Okay, so they're trying to minimize it, okay? And from what I understand, the bones that they found were like so completely destroyed that it's like putting, you know, 5,000 piece puzzles together and stuff like that, you know. And as far as this whole thing with the red hair, that they just happen to have red hair. I mean, how would the Paiutes know back, you know, hundreds and thousands of years ago, okay, if they're red-haired giants, that they're red, you know, their hair turns red when they're mummified for thousands of years. They wouldn't know that. I mean, I don't know what they're trying to say here, except that, oh, we can explain it. You know, and that's why, you know, it matches their story, but that's just a coincidence. They're not saying it, you know, outright, I guess, but I guess that's what they're saying, right? So, I don't know. Let's look at this illustration here that you've probably seen a million times before. It's a Paiute you know, fighting off the red-haired giants, and this guy's got like the beard and mustache and all that kind of stuff. So in any case, you've seen that stuff. So to others, the uncovering of the 15-inch sandals, there was only one sandal found, but there's no reason for it. Okay. Oh, back to the red hair instead of black. Is that just a coincidence, or how do they prove that? Have they done the DNA analysis from the mummified remains of these people? How do they know that? You know, I mean, have they done the DNA? Well, let's see it. What do you got? You know, I mean, how would they be able to? Did they do a deep analysis of the hair to prove that contention? Where's the research? It's nowhere. All right. And the height thing, you know, they're trying to minimize it. But as I go through in my Homo giganticus video, that, you know, we go over the whole thing on height, and anybody over 5'6" in 1800 was of unusual height. Anytime from 18, and they said that the average height of human beings hadn't changed since the Stone Age. So these people at 6 foot tall, I don't care if they're 6 foot tall or 7 foot tall, or 8 foot tall, whatever. All right? Even at 6 foot tall, that's of unusual height. All right? That's, you know, that's not the rule. That's the exception at that time. Yes, it may be more common nowadays, or, you know, relatively normal nowadays, but back when these people supposedly lived would be highly unusual. Okay? So don't let them mess your mind up with the psyop, okay? You're not honestly reporting. That's mainstream research on height. You can't have it both ways, all right? In an article published in the Nevada Review Minor in 1931, in February and June of that same year, it was reported that two very large skeletons were found in the Humboldt dry lake bed near Lovelock, Nevada. One measured 8.5 feet tall and was later described as being wrapped in a gum-covered fabric similar to Egyptian mummies. The other was supposedly 10 feet long. Some other evidence for Lovelock giants includes a set of images showing a handprint more than double the size of a normal man's hand, imprinted in a stone boulder in the cave, which was released by Bigfoot investigators M.K. Davis and Don Moreau in 2013. Along the Peru-Bolivia border, skulls have been found near Lake Titicaca, with claims being made that they were from giants with reddish hair and elongated skulls. The legends tell of the Uros Indians making reed boats and living on islands in Lake Titicaca similar to the Paiute. This is not tales, there's people living there in reed boats right now. You can see it on Brian Forster's channel. The Incas apparently drove them to live this way, much like the Paiute's ancestors apparently did to the giants at Lake Wahan. Today, many of the original artifacts found at Lovelock, but no giants, can be viewed at the small Natural History Museum located in Winnemucca, Nevada. Objects such as the duck decoys are housed at the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C., and the basketry and bones belong to the Nevada State Museum. The site is significant in an archaeological context because an example of evidence that turned up and was scientifically analyzed to confirm the legend that the Paiute elders told tribal children for years, even if not everything was entirely accurate and accounted for. The Phoebe A. Hearst Museum of Anthropology at the University of California published a paper on Lovelock Cave in 2005, had this to say, quote, "The site has been extensively pod hunted and many materials remain in private collection. Lovelock Cave, despite years of destruction, is one of the most important sites in the history of North American archaeology," unquote. Lovelock Cave was officially designated a historical site in 1984. Okay, there you have it. All right. And then when I clicked on the link for the research in that guy's article to go to that lady who just commented at the university there in California, it came up as no page found. The rest of the references he gave, every link came up. All right. And here's a Wikipedia article about it. I just want to comment quickly from what it says in here about what happened initially. Okay, just right here. In excavations with Lewis Napton during 1968 and 1969, disturbed human remains were discovered. The remains were so scattered that a complete recovery was never possible. Okay? A complete recovery was never so scattered that a complete recovery was never possible. Human coprolites found at Lovelock Cave are instrumental in piecing together the culture's subsistence patterns, specifically the kinds of food the Indians were eating, primarily birds, fish, and other fauna that lived in the lake. So, look, the site was completely destroyed, okay? And they mentioned that in this article, that this guy, Lowell, really like destroyed, didn't use the systematic type of archaeology that should have been used, okay? And here's the Humboldt Museum, Lovelock Cave artifacts, okay? And in this article it says, Lovelock Cave, 22 miles south of Lovelock, Nevada, was first excavated for black guano in 1911. During the course of the commercial fertilizer operation, many Native American artifacts dating back to 2000 BC were found buried in the substrata of the cave and were well preserved in a dry climatic condition. Soon many newspapers sensationally reported the cave had been a shelter of giants. A series of archaeological surveys of the cave were performed and determined that during its time of occupation, the cave had been a rock shelter overlooking Humboldt Lake. The recovered remains of the inhabitants, although slightly more robust, were not beyond normal size parameters. Okay? The Humboldt Museum once offered a display of some of the human remains found as what is known as the Humboldt Sink near Lovelock Cave. In respect for American Indians, well, they hated them. They were giants who ate them. Why would that be? It's not American. What are they talking about? Do they know what they're talking about? Okay? This is ridiculous. Slightly more robust. The Indians hated them, killed them all. We're not Indians, giants, whatever. Look. All right, guys. So, look. This is from the museum. This is mainstream. Slightly more.